The New York Islanders have a problem. It's a problem that Lou Lamoriello created, and even he admits he needs to fix. But will he actually get the job done? We are going to talk about that and a lot more on today's Locked On Islanders podcast.
Your Locked On Islanders, your daily podcast on the New York Islanders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to the Tuesday edition of the Locked On Islanders podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank everyone who makes Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts so you get new episodes as soon as they drop. I'm Gil Martin. I've been covering the New York Islanders for almost 2 decades, and I wrote the book Ice Wars on the history of the Islanders' rivalry with the New York Rangers from 1972 to the modern era. So glad you could join us today to talk a little Islanders hockey. And I wanted to start today, sort of the theme for this episode is going to be a couple of issues that the Islanders have right now. Like the state of the franchise. The dust has settled. The trade deadline is done. We're going to talk about 2 big issues that this team is dealing with now. Plus, we'll preview tonight's game against the LA Kings in LA. The first issue, and I don't think this is a major surprise to anybody, but it's age. Age is a big problem for the New York Islanders right now. And everydayers, you've heard me say many, many times, this team needs to get younger, faster, and more skilled. The younger and the faster, there is, a correlation between those 2 things. But here's the deal. It has now been 5 years or 4 years since the New York Islanders made their back-to-back runs to the conference final, 2020, 2021. There are 12 players left from that 2021 team currently on the Islanders roster. And all but one of those 12 players, if I'm doing my math correctly, well, all but 2, out of those dozen players are 30 years old or more. The 2 exceptions, by the way, Ilya Sorokin, who's 29, Matthew Barzal, 27. Oh, yes, 3. Noah Dobson, 25. That's it. But listen to these other players who are still on this team from the 2021 trip to the conference final and their ages. And again, I'm not going to include Brock Nelson, who has since been traded. Casey Cizikas, 34. Anders Lee, 34. If he comes back next year, the captain will be 35. Matt Martin, 35. Scott Mayfield, 32. Kyle Palmieri, 34. Adam Pelech, 30. Ryan Pollock, 30. I mentioned Sorokin, 29. Semyon Varlamov, who is out for the rest of this season, but is hoping to come back next season, 37 in April. You add to the mix Bo Horvat, who wasn't here in 2021, but he's going to be 30 in April. That is 10 guys on this team who are going to be 30 or more by April. And not all of those guys are done. Obviously, Bo Horvat has plenty of good hockey left in him. But a lot of these guys are on the downsides of their career. And, going back every day, or if you think back to yesterday's show, where, the upsetting thing was that you had Brock Nelson and Kyle Palmieri, 33 and 34 respectively, And Lou is trying to sign them to 3-year extensions. After the trade deadline ended and Lou addressed the media Saturday before the game against the Sharks, he mentioned, this team needs to get younger. First time I've ever heard him even remotely address this issue. And I wonder how much of it is related to the appearance of Scott Malkin, who came out to San Jose before the game and did not address the media, but did speak to Lou and was with the team. This team needs to get younger. And it's not just the number of players who are on the older side, it's where they fit in to the lineup. If you go down the Islanders roster right now and look at the line combinations and the way it all kind of plays out, Bo Horvat, Kyle Palmieri, and Anthony Duclair were your first line. Duclair's also going to turn 30. Horvat's going to turn 30. Palmieri is well over 30. Your second line, 2/3 of them on the wrong side of 30 in Lee and Pajot. Your defensemen, Pelech, Polak, Mayfield. 3 of your guys that played in this game on the wrong side of 30. This team had an opportunity at the trade deadline to speed up getting younger. And I understand to a point Lou Lamoriello saying, hey, my team has busted its rear end all season, and I'm not going to quit on them. If they have a chance at making the playoffs, I don't want to destroy that chance. I am going to let them, go for it. But it can't be at the expense of the long-term health of the team. And the long-term health of this team says that some of these older guys who are slowing down, let's not kid ourselves, okay? Look at the defensemen who are over 30 on the roster right now. And I like all 3 of these guys. Adam Pelech, Ryan Polak, both of them missing significant time over the last 3 years due to injuries. Their bodies start to break down. Scott Mayfield missing multiple stretches, lots of games, almost every year in the last few years because he has a lot of wear and tear on his body. These guys play a physical style of hockey. They've played a lot of games over the years. The body just starts to break down. This team had a chance at the trade deadline to accelerate a retool. And Lou, in his typical Lou way, he said, hey, there's this term rebuild. I don't know what it means. You're talking 10 years. No, Lou, you're not talking 10 years. A good rebuild can be done in half of 10 years, maybe even less. And a retool can be done in as little as 1 or 2 years. Look at what the Capitals did. Look at what the Devils did before Hughes got hurt and they, now are dealing with a whole different set of circumstances due to that. But teams can retool on the fly and go from out of the playoff picture, in the Devils' case, to a solid playoff team. In the Capitals' case, to a cup contending team. And they can do that in a year, in an off season. You can't place all your chips on the table as the wild card team with the goal of thinking that that's the best way to win a championship. In sports, the goal of the general manager, the goal of the team is to win a Stanley Cup in hockey. You want to win a title. You want to compete every year to win a Stanley Cup. And you don't do that best by being the first or second wild card and then hoping to get hot at the right time. You increase your odds significantly by being one of the best teams in the league. It sets you up for more home games. It sets you up for easier opponents, especially in the early rounds of the playoffs. It gives you confidence. Generally speaking, you have more talent, more cohesion. You don't finish first or second in your division or in the top 3 or 4 in your conference because you're not playing well. This team needs to make changes. It needs to get younger. It's not just that this team has a lot of older players. It's that they play big roles, key roles on this team. And ideally, I am not saying I don't like players on, who are over 30. Some of the best players in the world are more than 30 years old. But you need a mix. You need some guys who are in their prime. You need some veterans. You need some guys who are not yet in their prime, young, up and coming. And you need that mix, and you need that chemistry, and you need to mesh. Age is still a problem. And the upsetting thing is that Lou Lamoriello was thinking, you know what? For an older team that hasn't won a playoff series in 3 years, the best thing I can do entering the trade deadline is to re-sign 2 guys who are in their mid-30s to 3-year extensions. After the fact, he kind of changed his tune a little bit, but we need real change here to get a better mix of young and old and middle, and to make this team younger, faster, and more skilled. Otherwise, you're stuck in the muddy middle and slowly sinking as your core gets older. There is a big difference. The team that went to the Stanley Cup semifinals or the conference finals in 2020 and 2021, Brock Nelson was 28 or 29. Anders Lee at that point was 29 or 30 or 31. They were a little older, but still, in their prime. You're past that now. And I'm not saying they're not still good players, but you're not good enough right now to win a Stanley Cup. You're not even good enough right now to make the playoffs. So it's time for change. All right, we've got a lot more to get to. We're going to talk about one other big issue that the Islanders are facing for the rest of this season and something that Lou has to remedy. We'll preview tonight's game in LA against the Kings. And for our Islanders birthday of the day, a Finnish forward who played for both the Rangers and the Islanders in the mid to late 1980s. Let's see if you can guess who that is. All that and more still to come on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Factor. Looking to optimize your nutrition this year? Factor makes eating well easy with chef-prepared, dietitian-approved meals that are fresh, never frozen, and ready to heat and eat in just 2 minutes. With 40 options across 8 dietary preferences every week, you can customize your meals to fit your lifestyle. Whether it's Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, or Keto, Plus Factor even offers smoothies, breakfasts, and grab-and-go snacks to keep you fueled all day long. I love how Factor takes the stress out of meal planning. The convenience is unbeatable. No prep, no mess, just great food in minutes. I recently tried their Protein Plus meals, and they were packed with flavor that kept me full throughout the day. Eat smart with Factor. Get started at factormeals.com/LockedOnNHL50 off and use code LockedOnNHL50 off to get 50% off your first box plus free shipping. That's code LOCKEDONNHL50 off at factormeals.com/LOCKEDONNHL50 off to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. Another problem this team has, and it's a bigger problem right now, and I don't think it's going to be solved this year for sure. You know, you talk about this team still having some semblance of playoff aspirations. And points wise, yeah, they're not that far out. Yeah, they're 4 or 5 points out of a playoff spot with, 19 games left. 5 teams to pass, but yeah, not impossible. But when you are 27th in the league in goals scored, dead last again in the league on the power play, and you just traded the guy who's tied for second in goals scored on your team and the guy who led the team in goals scored last year, where are the goals going to come from? And it's a real problem that this team needs to figure out. And if you look at the 2 games since the trade deadline, let's be honest, the Islanders were outplayed in both games. The Sharks at this stage are not good enough to take advantage of the fact that they dominated the Islanders, especially in the first period, and were the better team on the ice for most of the game. But they outplayed the Islanders. The Ducks outplayed the Islanders. And the Islanders need to figure out how to get goal scoring. And again, looking at the big picture, earlier in the year, the Islanders had 3 defensemen hurt at one time. They end up bringing in from outside of the organization 3 new defensemen. Adam Boqvist, Scott Perunovich, Tony DeAngelo. Sunday against the Ducks, the Islanders lose Kyle McLean to an illness. You need a center. They don't put Matt Martin in the lineup. They move Boqvist up to play center for the first time in his career. And again, I gave Boqvist credit. He was game. Wasn't taking faceoffs. That went to Pierre Engvall. But realistically speaking, again, you go back to the line combinations. You're asking guys who are not great goal scorers to step up and score goals. J.G. Pageau is not a second-line center at this stage in his career. He is a third-line center. Simon Holmstrom, I think he can be a second-line wing, but he's yet to prove that that's his best spot. I think that's his ceiling. I think he can get there. Anthony Duclair is a top 6 guy, but this year, because of injuries, he hasn't been able to play like it most of the time when he's been healthy enough to even be in the lineup. Where are the goals going to come from? Max Siplikov is going to have to step up and start scoring. I'm not holding my breath on Pierre Engvall being that guy, even if he ever stays in the lineup long enough. Hudson Fasching, useful 4th-line guy, but not a goal scorer. Casey Cizikas, also a useful 3rd or 4th-line player, but not a goal scorer. Cizikas has played 63 games. He has 5 goals. Again, not his role. The problem is, who is going to fill the role? And so you go back to the question that, Lou said he wanted to give his team every chance to make the playoffs. Okay. Then you need to put together a team with the talent to make the playoffs. And even when healthy, this team doesn't have enough goal scorers. And look, they're not a run and gun team. This is not the Wayne Gretzky era Edmonton Oilers. I get it. Even when they went to the conference final, they were below average to average at scoring goals. But down the stretch right now, the Islanders have the third hardest schedule in their last 19 games. The schedule is difficult. They face a lot of teams that are not going to be easy to beat. And that is, wow. How do you figure out ways to win? You still have to play Washington twice, Tampa Bay twice, Florida once, Carolina once, the Rangers once, the Kings tonight. It is not going to be easy for the New York Islanders to make a playoff run. And you know what, though? This team, you say what you want about them, and they are flawed, but they have always been resilient and have always done some good work with their back against the wall. Let's see. Let's see if they can dig down and find a way to stay in this playoff race for the last 19 games, or at least as many as possible. But this team has its work cut out for it. No doubt about that. All right. Islanders, Kings, going to play tonight in LA. We'll talk about the keys to victory. We'll have our Islanders birthday of the day, all that and more still to come on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Wonderful Pistachios. Looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help keep you feeling fuller longer. Personally, I love the no-shells variety. It's the perfect grab-and-go snack for busy days. Whether I'm snacking at my desk, on a road trip, or just need a quick protein boost, they're always my go-to. And if you love cracking open every shell for that satisfying crunch, the in-shell options are a classic favorite. So get snacking and get cracking with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. That's wonderfulpistachios.com. Tonight, Islanders and the LA Kings in Los Angeles. By the way, it is a 10:30 Eastern time start. So obviously our show tomorrow will not go live on YouTube. Our premiere will probably be about 45 minutes to an hour after the game ends. So please adjust your schedules accordingly. The Kings, they are a tough team to beat, especially at home. They are right now 33-20-9. That puts them in third place in the Pacific, but they're just 3 points behind the Oilers with a game in hand. They've won their last 2, beating the Blues and the Golden Knights in a couple of 1-goal games. Defense is the key for the LA Kings. They are only 25th in the league in goals scored, but 4th in goals against. Darcy Kemper and David Rittich are the 2 goalies, and they have both played well, especially Kemper, who has a 2.32 goals against average, 2 shutouts, and a .912 save percentage. Meanwhile, on the ice, as far as the scoring is concerned, it's a mix of older and younger guys. And this is a team that kind of, has made the playoffs and just keeps finding the Edmonton Oilers and losing to them the last 3 years. Special teams, power play 28th in the league, 15.4% success rate. The penalty kill is better, 12th in the league with an 80.9% success rate. The line combinations for the Kings: Quentin Byfield, centers Kevin Fiala and Alex Lafreniere on the top line. Anze Kopitar, Andrei Kuzmenko, and Adrian Kempe are the second trio. Philip Deneau, Warren Fogle, and Trevor Moore are the third line. And on the fourth line from left to right, Tanner Jeannot, Samuel Hellenius, and Alex Turcotte. On the blue line, Mikey Anderson and Drew Doughty are the top pair. Jordan Spence and Vladislav Gavrikov are the second pair. And the third duo is Joel Edmondson and Brandt Clark. As I mentioned, the goalies are Kemper and Rittich. And right now, the LA Kings are a healthy team. You got to prevent some of these goal scorers, and I'm talking about Kempe and Fiala as the two most dangerous guys. And then you got to watch Kopitar. He is the guy who makes their power play go, by the way. Kopitar, 13 assists on the power play. Fiala has 8 goals, but those are the guys you got to watch when LA has the man advantage. And just overall, the Islanders are going to have difficulty creating offense against this LA team, and we'll see if the Islanders are able to find a way to get back on the winning track and keep themselves in the playoff picture for at least another game or two. And look, right now, the Islanders, here's what I want to see. Since the trade deadline, they've played 2 games. They're 1-1. But they didn't play particularly well in either game. I want to see, win or lose, I want to see this team play well. Show us that heart that this team is known for. Go out there and get the job done. It's what this Islanders team needs to do if they hope to stay in this race one game more. Time now for our Islanders birthday of the day. And today is the 61st birthday of former Islanders forward Raimo Helminen. Helminen was originally a second-round pick of the Rangers back in 1984, came to North America and joined the Rangers for the 85-86 season, was traded a year later to the Minnesota North Stars, and then joined the Islanders for the 88-89 season, played in 24 games for the Islanders, 1 goal, 12 points, 4 penalty minutes, and then went back to Europe to finish his career in Sweden and Finland. Only played 117 career NHL games, 13 goals, 59 points, 16 penalty minutes. He played in 2 playoff games with the Rangers back in 86. One of his better games as an Islander, December 17th, 1988, Islanders hosting the Devils at the Nassau Coliseum. Sean Burke, the goalie for New Jersey, Billy Smith in between the pipes for the Islanders. And in this game, Raimo Helminen, our Islanders' birthday of the day, on the power play, sets up Mikko Makala to tie the game against the Devils at 1-1 late in the first period. Tomas Jansson with the other assist. In the second period, again on the power play, Helminen sets up Brent Sutter, giving the Islanders a 2-1 lead. David Volek with the other assist. And then in the third period, also on the power play, Helminen sets up Reed Larson, Jansson with the other assist. Islanders go on to beat the Devils by a score of 5-2. Billy Smith, 25 saves. But for Raimo Helminen, he had 3 assists in this game. Did not have a shot on goal, but a big 3-point night, which led the Islanders to this win over the Devils. Raimo Helminen, briefly an Islander, he is our Islanders' birthday of the day. I want to thank everyone for making Locked On Islanders your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the Locked On NHL podcast, bringing you the biggest league-wide stories that matter with the local coverage you love from Locked On. Find Locked On NHL on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. If you have a question, a comment, maybe a topic you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, send us an email to lockedonislanders@gmail.com. And if you leave your first name and where you're from, we're happy to mention you on the show when we discuss whatever's on your mind. You could also follow the show on X at Locked On Isles, and you could follow me, Gil Martin, on X at Ice Wars, NYR vs NYI. We'll keep you up to date on all things Islanders all year long, and I'm live tweeting during every Islanders home and road game. So join me for some instant insight and analysis, and it's great to talk Islanders hockey with you, game time or anytime. Don't forget, tomorrow's show will be 45 minutes to an hour after the game ends, so it won't be at midnight, our premiere on YouTube. It'll probably be closer to 2:30 in the morning. But we will do it, and we will have all the latest news, notes, and happenings and our key takeaways from this game against the Kings. Have a great day, everybody. Stay safe, and of course, let's go Islanders.